Hey guys, it's Ty with Ty the Dog Guy on the Daily, and I want to tell you the 3 things that are standing in between you and the success you want from your dog and your training efforts. There's a million mistakes that we can make, but there's really only 3 categories of mistakes. We've either got a tool problem, a technique problem, or a consistency problem. And today I want to talk about tools. One of the biggest reasons that people aren't getting the results that they want is that they don't have the right tools, aren't using the tools, have the tools but aren't using them properly, things like that. So what I always explain to folks is that training is always tool heavy in the beginning. And when I say in the beginning, I'm talking about, the first parts of training, and that might be, if I'm training my dog to sit, the beginning might be a couple days. If I'm training my dog to get over aggression, the beginning might be a couple months, right? And so in the beginning stages of training is always tool heavy. And this is any style of training. And so, if you've seen some of my other, heard some of my other podcasts or whatnot, you might know our style. I'm not talking about that today, because regardless of the style that you've chosen for training your dog or the methodology or whatever, training is always tool heavy. So if you are doing clickers and treats, then you'd better have clickers and treats all the time in the beginning. One of the big mistakes people make is, the dog lives 90% of its life, and 10% of the time when you're working on training is when you get out those clickers and treats, and so the dog might learn during that 10 or 5% of the time, but the rest of the time the dog is not learning or not being trained. If you're using e-collars, the e-collar needs to be on most of the time when you're around the dog. If you're using slip leashes, if you're using body language, I know there's different types of training that folks do out there. Whatever the type of training that you're doing, training is always tool heavy to begin with. And so it's a common issue that we'll see when we're working with clients when we're on session 2 or session 3 and they're saying, okay, this is better and this is better, but I'm still struggling here. Oftentimes, like I say, it's common for us to find that they've got a tool problem, that they needed to have the crate and they weren't using the crate. They needed to have the training collar and they didn't have the training collar. Or, it could be a variety of things, right? But the tools, they don't, they possess them, but they're not using them when they need to. And like I say, in the beginning stages, you always have to have access to your tools. Otherwise, because in the beginning, the tools are the means with which we communicate the concepts that we eventually want the dog to understand, just simply verbally, right? Because all of us want to simply tell our dog sit, come, heel, whatever, and the dog, listens and pays attention. That's our goal for everyone, right? And in a sense, our voice is a tool, but our voice as a tool by itself in the beginning stages is ineffective. We need something else, like I say, whether that's a treat and a clicker or an e-collar or, a leash or body language or whatever. Something has to be going with our voice. Otherwise, it just becomes all this dead noise that goes on around the dog as the dog is constantly hearing sit, down, come, whatever, and there's no tools that give it meaning. So like I say, whatever method you're using, you have to have the tools, and you basically have to have access to those tools at almost all the time. But not only that, the tools need to be proper fit, proper style, proper usage, properly maintained, things like that. If you've got a clicker that doesn't click properly, if you've got an e-collar that's on too loose, if you've got a slip leash that's placed too far down the neck, whatever, if you've got the tools and you're using the tools, but they're not, like I say, fit properly, then you're going to be in trouble there. So that's the first thing. In upcoming podcasts here, I'm going to be talking about techniques and consistency. But the first thing I want you thinking of when you're trying to diagnose and trying to understand, okay, what do I need to change so that my dog gets to the next level? The first thing you need to look at are the tools. Do I have the right tools? Am I having the access to them when I need? Are they fit properly and all that good stuff? And then that leads us to techniques and consistency.